Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm the nerd with the mouth, David.
Alliance Assemble,
Assemble.
Volume 285. And tonight we are going to conclude our breakdown of Wonder Man, the miniseries. I'm calling it a miniseries. I'm just saying it right now.
Yeah, the way that it left off, I'm agree with you. Miniseries.
Which is okay. Miniseries has nothing to be bad. I mean, we can put a lot of these Disney Plus shows in miniseries. Not many. I think Loki's the only one to get a season of live action, at least a season 2.
So let's see if we can break the streak here.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with what I got. I'd like to see the characters again, but we'll go into more of that. So, how's been your week?
Week has been a pretty up and down week. It's been a weird one here in the Midwest with weather. We've gone from 4-degree weather to today it was 60, and who knows what it's going to be tomorrow. So it's been weird. Work has been busy, just trying to get through the week and hoping this 60-degree weather lasts me through the weekend so I can at least get one day of being outside.
I am incredibly jealous because when we last left Chris's area was recovering from an ice storm, and as we were leaving the recording, a snowstorm was headed on the way. And in the South, it where I live, it's one of those things where if it's coming across, mountains are going to deflect a lot of it. We're going to get nothing. It comes up through Atlanta. There's a good potential. Well, this one kind of like had a cyclone kind of hurricane kind of aspect to it. And yeah, snow apocalypse did happen in the area. We got over a foot of snow at my house, and I'm a former Northerner, so I mean, it's still impressive. Like it was the most snow that had been seen in almost 20 years in the area. Like it shut down. I went back again. Like unlike last week, this was my first day back at work.
Yeah.
A lot of work from home days. So, but a lot of fun. It was a lot of great. The kids had a great time. I'm just happy they've seen. Our families are from the north, so they've seen like what that kind of snow is, but they've never really seen it here. So they were ecstatic. So lot of fun.
Such fun
But
time getting
it was that
playing
powdery
snow.
snow. It was like powdery snow too, not that wet stuff. So it was a lot of packing. Shoveling was a nightmare though.
Oh, I bet.
But I'll tell you what, Aaron and I decided to do the shoveling actually in the afternoon as the storm was still going on, just because we were like, oh my God, if we had to let it go, it wasn't, it was not going to be good Sunday morning, me shoveling all that. So,
Yeah, I've done that before. Done the mid snow shoveling just so it doesn't get overwhelming.
how you doing? What's up? Marvel Alliance is up. Wonder Man is up. Everything. But thank you. I'm trying to read it. Estrella Martinez, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Marvel Alliance. So, but yeah, so we are going to break down the last 4 episodes of Wonder Man. So, and we're going to break down and talk about Mr. Brent's question from last week at that point. So that's gonna take our back half of the show. So, but let us get all the network plugs out of the way. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 6 shows covering a wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. Our dollar tier is our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows. And we've got a few shows in the back catalog for the patrons. We've got We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch. We've got Tales from the House of X, where we rewatched our favorite films from the Fox era of X-Men, and then the Baxter broadcast, where the Fantastic Four retro film rewatch reviews. So, we've also got the DC Alliance guys doing their DC films through the years. We've got Joe doing his multiverse minutes. Disney Dives. We're on the 1st and the 15th. He breaks down a new one of the movies from the Disney back catalog in chronological order. And a lot of back content out there, so we want to thank our patrons. We cannot do this without your support. And if you're not a member of Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA network so you can join our a lovely Patreon. But if you're not a member of Patreon, we totally understand. Take 30 if you can take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, panelboundcomics.com, for omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at Panelbound Comics have got going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. Got some great ones on pre-order right now. We've got the Poe Dameron Omnibus. We've got the Age of Krakoa, Reign of X, Volume 1. We've got X-Men Blue and Gold, Blood Ties Omnibus. We've got Void Rivals Deluxe Edition. We've got a lot of great stuff. Not a huge catalog for this month, but some good stuff to fit your reading needs. But if we got 2 coupon codes for you out there, we've got panel. We can go to Marvel GUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order, or you can use MGUA SIT for 5% off when you order 4 or more books together. It lets them know you're a listener. We want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right. So, Wonder Man episodes, we have 5 through 8. Now, we kind of hinted at that, at least I said that the back half of this season, not saying the front half was bad, it was just like these last couple of episodes really started having a lot of good payoffs to what they were building towards.
I agree. After we got our incredible Doorman / Josh Gad episodes, and after that, I feel like
will return in Avengers Doomsday.
The show really hit its stride from episode 5 on. They really dived into the character of Simon. You got more of him and Trevor in their buddy cop role, and just more in depth with everything. And so, yeah, the second half of this series really just ramped it up for me.
Yeah, so let's start breaking down with episode 5, Found Footage. So Simon and Trevor celebrate their Wonder Man callbacks at El Capitan, buoyed by their improbable reality that they have advanced as far among the hopefuls. Trevor revels in the moment, savoring the victory. Simon predictably spirals. Go figure. The man who seems to catch a break, when he finally does, he starts second-guessing himself. No lines to repair. He fixates on what's at stake, convinced it would be catastrophic to come this close and to lose the role. Simon sensing this anxiety, Trevor guides him on breathing exercises. And when Trevor's phone rings again, he silences it without answering. So I like this because, again, you start seeing how Trevor really start believing that he does care about Simon.
Yeah, I think now that he has gotten to see Simon, he's gotten to see more aspects of his personality and his home life and everything like that. He's more in tune to, okay, I would be doing this man a disservice by doing this. And we got to also remember Trevor's been around superheroes from his time in Iron Man to his time in Shang-Chi. Like, he's been around superpowered people. So this isn't his first time seeing that, there are some good superpowered people in this world.
Yeah. So elsewhere, Agent Cleary leaves a pointed voicemail for Slattery, questioning his recent silence, kind of saying, hey, we'll put you back in jail. But the call is interrupted when the director of the Department of Damage Control enters Cleary's office, praising his dedication and pointedly reminding him how indispensable he is. And Cleary insists that he is in the home stretch and expects to close that case real soon. Back at the restaurant, Trevor orders some drinks, only to be confronted by a man who recognizes him. Trevor does not remember the man, but feeling he is mutual, flanked by 3 armed associates, the man forces Simon and Trevor into a nearby alley at gunpoint. He reveals himself to be a drug dealer that Trevor owes significant debt to. Imagine that, Trevor owing money to drug dealers.
Yeah, and this is so funny how Trevor's like, I might know you, I may not, I don't remember you, but it was a crazy time back then, so who knows?
Yep. So it escalates pretty quickly until Simon snaps into action, using his powers to incapacitate the man with brutal efficiency. And how? In the aftermath, Simon admits how much he hates using his abilities in public, knowing that it could end his acting career, and Trevor reassures him that no one saw. At the far end of the alley, however, There is a kid on a scooter wearing a GoPro that records everything before speeding off. Simon and Trevor give chase, but the kid disappears. Go figure. Imagine that. A little POS, you know, going out and recording just happens to be there. And what does he get? Probably going to sell it to TMZ, right?
Yeah. And it's so funny. The kid is just sitting there for a moment, staring at them with the blinking red light on his helmet. Like he's capturing all this. He's got you guys in glorious high definition.
Yeah. Imagine that a GoPro, though. I didn't know GoPros were still a thing. So now in Trevor's car, the two scour the streets of Los Angeles until Trevor spots the kid. Simon pursues him and even mounting the sidewalk. During the chase, Trevor's phone lights up repeatedly. Who is he getting? Call from Uncle Vanya. It's a code name for Clary. I wonder where that code name came from.
Yeah, that is definitely an interesting way to have somebody saved in your phone. I guess it's very indiscriminate, and you wouldn't think to mess with it. But yeah, that's a funny name.
Yeah, so Simon urges him to ignore it, but the message is from Janelle. She sent the scene from Wonder Man in which Barnaby betrays the hero after finding his price. Simon pulls over to read it. As Trevor looks up, he sees the kid standing calmly in the driveway waiting. But Simon's just so saying, I got to read these lines. But Simon gives chase, Trevor lagging behind. The kid leads him into a club where he finally sits down and introduces himself as Jaden. He offers a deal. Simon helps him recover his stolen bike from the man named Esteban, and in return, Jaden will hand over the incriminating footage. This is I don't even know what to say. That he stole he says get the stolen bike, you know?
Yeah,
That's the price.
and it's funny when you see Jaden just sitting in the club, all cool, calm, collected. It's almost as if he planned this, even though all of this happened by happenstance.
Yeah. Trevor doesn't trust him. I mean, why would he? But Simon agrees, seeing no other option. So Jaden leads into Esteban's house and points out the bike. His plan is simple: confront Esteban, demand a bike. Simon suggests posing as undercover cops, but the ruse collapses immediately when the woman answering the door recognizes Trevor as the Mandarin. Oh man, I'm sorry. That was a good one. It's like, wait a minute, I know you.
Everywhere he goes, he can't escape it.
You'll never see me coming. Inside, Esteban is bragging, bagging what was it, chamoy candy or whatever it was?
Yes, they think it's drugs, but
Yep.
it's candy.
It's candy, yep. And it insists Jaden is lying, claiming he wants back into the candy business, candy in quotes. Situation deteriorates further when the drug dealer from the earlier arrives, yanking Jaden out of the car at gunpoint. Neighbor sees witnesses the weapon and quickly retreats. The dealer bangs on the door, threatening to kill Jaden unless Slattery comes outside. So I mean, it's this whole thing is quickly spiraling out of control.
Yeah, it has become just one crazy set of events here, and like who knew this whole thing would have drug dealers, guns, everything involved in this quaint little neighborhood.
Yep, it's suburbia at its finest, right?
Yeah.
So Trevor realizes Jaden has not uploaded the footage yet and orders him to slide the GoPro through the mail slot, and Trevor deletes the video on the spot. Yes, that's how we do it. And of course, at perfect timing, the police sirens come and start a standoff. Officers arrive, order the dealer to drop his weapon. In the chaos, Jaden slips back into the house where he and Esteban reconcile. Aw, it's a Kodiak moment.
Yeah.
So Janelle calls Simon. Hearing the commotion, she asks what is happening, but Simon deflects, and then she drops the real bombshell. Von Kovac is leaving town, and the callback is happening right now. So gunfire erupts outside. Everyone bolts out the door. Simon and Trevor race in the car and speeds away at full throttle. This is just one of those, like, one could call it like a bottle episode that really doesn't advance the plot, whatever. It's just, if this episode's just zany, this is an episode we also didn't really need.
Yeah. It furthers your feeling of why Simon and his fear of people learning about his powers. We just had the Doorman episode. Now we have another instance. It's furthering that, but outside of furthering that, he's really scared that people's going to find out his secret. There's not much more to this episode other than you get the traditional buddy cop episode with him and Trevor playing back and forth against each other.
Yeah, so that kind of wraps up that episode. So we get to episode 6, The Callback. So, episode opens with Trevor auditioning once more for the role of the Mandarin. So we got a flashback. Disheveled and visibly hungover, he stumbles through the lines until a simple prop changes everything. He slips on those pair of glasses, and the persona snaps into place. Some people call me a terrorist. Others, a savior. And suddenly, Trevor's back. I like seeing that. I like that we got little hints through the series, like how it kind of came to be.
Yeah, because everything you hear about Trevor by his own stories and other people, like he was this disheveled drug addict guy who's just down on his luck, and now you see that is exactly they were looking for the unassuming guy, and then put on those glasses and everything clicked into place for him. It's like, oh, okay, this is why they chose him to be the face of the Mandarin.
Yep. So on the drive over to Von Kovac's home, Simon spirals with regret over the previous night because he hasn't slept. He needs preparation. Trevor does what he always does to calm him down and reassure him. So when they arrive, Simon's anxiety peaks. He becomes convinced that the single pair of shoes outside the door is a test, that everything is a test. And Trevor steadies him with box breathing just outside the door, and then they're ushered inside to meet the other finalists. And I like how they kind of try to start sizing everyone up. It was kind of interesting, and it just makes Simon even more crazy.
Yeah, he's looking and he's recognizing people from other projects, and he's trying to figure. He's like, okay, that guy must be auditioning for Barnaby. This guy also for Wonder Man, and just figuring who's who and if he has a chance. And just getting inside his own head at this point.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I like it that there's always that one guy that says, I've never done this, never formal training. I just did this, and now I've got like 20 deals. He's like ends up being the most successful one of the bunch. He just fell into dumb luck.
Yeah.
So Von Kovac gathers the group to a study, explaining that he's still discovering who Wonder Man is, and he plays the Midnight Special, announcing it as the opening soundtrack of the film. Everyone moves with the music except to Simon, who freezes inside his own head. Trevor pantomimes the trombone, prompting Kovac to cut the song short. Amused but focused, Kovac pairs the actors off to run scenes. And there's that whole debate in the car saying, hey, we should kind of like say, like act like we don't know each other, but then kind of partner up to make ourselves like. And Trevor's like, no, that's not going to seem natural. He's going to see right through it.
Yeah, and it that moment between them, and then when they get in there and everyone's getting paired off and things like that, it's like you can't predict what's going to happen in this wild, very unassuming interview that they're having, and so it kind of sets the tone for the whole anything can happen premise of this.
Yeah, so when Trevor is paired with another actor, Simon tries to intervene, but Trevor gently shuts him down. He says, it's going to be okay, Simon. The first pair performs, but Kovac abruptly stops them, tosses the script aside, and introduces improvisational exercise meant to blur the line between fiction and truth. Trevor and his partner go first, playing a couple in the midst of a breakup as they move the scene through the house. The exercise were like that was a wild scene. Just like I really wonder in the sense of it would have been really interesting. They literally gave them the idea, and that was the improvisation they came up with. Like truthfully,
Yeah, they really took it kind of a step far, and it was funny too. But you also got to see Trevor in his natural acting role.
you got Arkham Arrow in the chat saying underestimated how good this show was and very much enjoying it. For me, it's as much of a different tone and just felt like Loki was. Yeah, no, we're definitely in agreement with that. So Simon and his partner Manuel are next, and they're tasked portraying a relationship in which one person feels himself slipping away. Uncomfortable without a script, Simon starts saying some lines, acting at it. He's really fallen into it. And then the scene goes, and Von Kovac goes, Simon, I expected more out of you instead of just. I don't know if Von Kovac picked up on it or someone else said, "Did you just do Pretty Woman?"
Yeah. But Kovac goes, huh, pretty woman. Like I expected more of that. Like that's you fell in line with the easy route.
Yeah, you didn't try to challenge expectations. And so Simon's like, "Oh my God, I've really blown it. This is how it's going to go." And the group gathers in the study while going. Kovac steps away. Trevor entertains the room with a story about seeing Shaka Khan alive, which was also just, of course, Trevor's got a story about Shaka Khan. Simon sits alone in the corner, unraveling. When Kovac returns, he proposes another exercise, and Simon volunteers. This time, his scene partner plays a former classmate, calling him on the phone, hurling insults, and calling him a freak. Simon asks him to stop, and the actor keeps pushing. And Trevor senses something is wrong, and he tries to intervene, but it's too late. Triggered, Simon punches straight through the man's head, and the room erupts in screams. Part of me was like, oh, that would have been awesome if it was real. It wasn't, but it was still cool to see.
Yeah, it the way that his hand went through the head and everyone just lost it. I was like, "Oh, that was unexpected." And then to have the immediate following scene, I was like, "Oh, okay." But I thought, "Oh, wow, this is how he gets outed."
Yeah, it was a choice, but Von Kovac calls his name. Simon wakes up. It was all a dream. Embarrassed, Simon retreats to the balcony where Trevor finds him shaking. Simon confesses when Kovac wants him exposed, stripped down to who he really is, that if he reveals himself, he'll never work again. But Trevor reminds him that he's more than his powers. He's a man capable of pain, joy, fear, and love, and acting is a reflecting of that truth. So back inside, Simon and Trevor perform the final scene as Wonder Man and Barnaby. When they finish, there is silence. Like, they nailed it, I thought. Like, they did a really good job.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of that had to do with Trevor really kind of finding a way to finally get through to Simon and Simon to trust Trevor.
yeah, they had their moment. They played off each other very well, and I like the way that scene was shot because it felt like they were getting just lost in the moment of those two as it faded out the other actors in the background, and the focus was just on those two. You could see their connections as actors, which really played up the rest of this.
Yeah. So they are escorted to the door just before they leave. Von Kovac comes up, said, "Where are you going?" He said, "We were escorted to the door. Where do you think we're going? We're leaving." He admits he was close to giving up, and he really was basically getting ready to cut Simon loose, but then that scene really sold it, and he tells Simon is Wonder Man and Trevor is Barnaby. They both have their roles. And Simon drives Trevor home, with the two celebrating a hard-won victory. Trevor steps out of the car. Simon drives away. Almost immediately, a black Department of Damage Control pulls up, grabs Trevor, clearly informs Trevor that he is returning to prison. Trevor stops with a promise. Simon is a super powered and dangerous, and he can prove it. He just needs more time. So the real question at the end of this episode is is he really just going to throw Simon under the bus, or is he trying to play a game?
Yeah, this starts to give you the where is Trevor going with this sense of it, which really leads a little bit into the last two episodes of not knowing truly what side that Trevor is on. Because I mean, he's a friend to Simon, but he doesn't want to go back to prison.
Yeah, so we're going to take our first ad break for the evening before we break down the final two episodes. So, as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, episode 8, the penultimate episode, Kathy Friedman. I would like to say and I have said this on the show many times, penultimate episodes are usually end up being my favorites, and I don't think this is an exception to that. This continues to follow the pathway. There are some that just don't measure up, but more often than not, a lot of the MCU Disney Plus shows really are the best episodes of the series.
Yeah, they really know how to get you to that crescendo with these episodes, and this one, it takes a different approach in its setup, but it has some great moments, especially some family moments with Simon.
Yeah, so the episode opens as a flashback. Sanford Williams drops his son off at school, reminding Eric about football practice before returning his attention to Simon. Sensing an opportunity, Sanford pretends to hear Simon cough and he suggests to take the day off. Simon obliges with an exaggerated cough. So where do they end up going instead?
Yeah, it's day off from school. We are going to the movie theaters.
Yeah, and what are they
So
going to go see?
this is Simon's first introduction into Wonder Man. Of and his dad is telling him that he recalls watching this as one of the first films when he came to the states, and although you can tell that this is an older movie, he thinks it still holds up and that Simon's going to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's the one that helps him come realize that he's going to be an actor. His dad even encourages him at that point, saying, "Yo, you've got this. You've got the spark. You can do it." So
Yeah.
going into the present, he prepares for work in the same obsessive ritual when he was on American Horror Story. But everything else has changed. He is chauffeured instead of walking. Food is delivered on command. He has the creative input of how he carries his weight in the ride room. Like his dream, everything is just like, oh man, feels so good. Like he orders food, changes it 20 different times, and then ends up just giving it to the guy that ordered it.
Yeah.
So when Simon threatens to overwhelm the production, Trevor steps in to steady him, and Trevor has become Simon's emotional anchor, even eclipsing the carefully managed strategies of Janelle's team as they guide Simon through rapid ascent. Um, and they want to capitalize on this because they don't know how long it's gonna last. They don't know how the movie's, but they want to use Simon while he's hot. But Trevor's just like, no, go do a play, and they're like, there's no money in plays. Like
Yeah.
you've been wanting to get out of plays to make money. Like this is what you have to do, and that's what a lot of your younger stars they realize too. It's just like you book your next gig while you're in the middle of the first before it has a chance to dry up. Like you do everything possible to get out there. And Trevor's like, no, 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 you gotta keep living the subtle life.
Yeah. While your name is hot and while people are talking about how you're going to be in this big blockbuster, go ahead and sign up for your next job, secure that check. And Trevor's like, "Nope, embrace the art, embrace being an actor, like do all these things that you love acting, so this is what you should do instead."
Yeah. So, despite that, Janelle introduces the idea that, well, there is something that they can start moving forward with. Kathleen Friedman of the New York Times wants to profile Simon and Trevor. Trevor is loving this, but Simon immediately is really apprehensive about it. He knows Kathy's reputation for precision and persistence and fears she's out to uncover his secret and really try to ruin his career before he even has a chance. Trevor says, nope, just relax. Use his simple advice: use people's names. It disarms them. So calling her cat, it's like, okay, I guess you're right. Um, so when Kathy arrives on set, Simon takes the advice too far, repeatedly using her name until it becomes uncomfortable. Kathy tells him to ignore her entirely. She's, I'm not here. Don't even think about it. Like, I'm not here. Don't even offer me anything. And Simon just fumbles over everything badly.
Yeah, and it's hilarious the way that he's fumbling. First with the constantly saying her name, "Hello, Kathy Freeman. Can I get you anything, Kathy Freeman?" And then trying to talk around her. And then as the production assistant is asked him if he wants anything, he's trying to play it off like, "No, we should be thinking about the lesser actors on stage. And no, I can go get my own coffee. You don't have to have anyone run and get it for me." Like he's trying to be the ultimate everyman instead.
Yeah, but again, you can sell that false bravado at that point too. Um, so Trevor arrives, and I think it is when Trevor arrives at that point. She asks, oh yeah, before leaving, um, oh no, Trevor did, yeah, Trevor arrives, and so he's kind of working his charm as Trevor does, and just kind of settles the scene, makes it calm. Before leaving, Kathy asks for personal references, and both men hesitate until she mentions Vivian, which is Simon's ex, and says that she's going to contact her directly. With no better option, Simon agrees. So Simon decides to reach out to Vivian and ask her to meet, and she jokingly acknowledges why he called, and he tries to deflect. He's like, "Yeah, I'm worried." So they catch up. She's now on severance. He has Wonder Man, and Simon apologizes for his past and admits that he struggles with relationships. And Vivian says, "I've always, it's not just that. You never told me your secret." And he's like standing shocked, and she's like, "I never pressured you to do it, but I was waiting for you to finally trust me enough to do it." And she hopes someday that he will someday trust someone enough to fully tell themselves. But she assures him that I'm not going to tell her. That's not my place. Just, I hope you can grow with this. And I like that. That was a very real moment that could have turned very campy and very kind of cliche. But I think that scene really told a lot about Simon as a person and the struggle that someone trying to keep this secret can go through.
Yeah, it's a moment of, and looking back, you start to think like, yes, they were living together. They have probably gone through all these emotional moments together. She would have had to have seen something, no matter how hard he tried to hide. And through all of that, that was never a breaking point for her. They did have their issues, but him being superpowered were not one of them, and she was willing to protect that for him.
Yeah. So just before Simon and Trevor sit down with Kathy, Simon receives a call from his mother, Martha. She's already spoken to Kathy, and she casually mentions that Kathy also spoke to Eric. And oh my God, sends Simon even more of a panic, saying his brother's going to sabotage him. And he says he's never liked me. This is the moment for him really to screw me over. And Trevor calms him with a box breathing and urges him patience. So again, Trevor's kind of his like center. So during the interview, Simon begins explaining his complicated relationship with Eric, only for Kathy to interrupt, and she says, Eric spoke glowingly of you. Like, he praises and says, like, he even admits that Eric even says, like, I was kind of a jerk to him, but I'm really proud of him, and things like that, which is obviously very surprising considering how a couple of episodes ago he was a royal jerk to Simon.
Yeah. For Simon feeling like his brother is going to take this as his opportunity to knock him off his pedestal, and then no, like he wants you to succeed. He wants you to do something with your life, and kind of shows that that's all Eric really wanted was, hey, do something with your life. In Eric's mind, acting wasn't working out beforehand, so he wanted him to get a real job. But if, hey, you just landed this big movie, this is the first step of showing some sort of proudness and gratitude.
Yeah, so then she turns to Trevor, and he's all excited, very prim proper, and then Kathy presents the footage of Trevor being arrested. Like, she says, so when you got back here, like, I've heard stuff that people said you were arrested when you got off the plane, like, because she was questioning how he got out of jail and things like that, and she's like, no, I've got people that say it, and here's the footage of like how you got arrested, and she he gets really flustered and denies it, and then she's like, nope, I'm not doing this, this is over. And she's asking, did he cut a deal with the government about it? And Trevor's like, I'm done, I'm not doing this. And Simon's just like, oh my God, this was never about me. I wasn't ever going to be the target. Trevor was. And that's what she said. Like, I have nothing but good things to say about you, but Trevor just, she said something fishy about him, and I wanted to kind of bring that out. So, how about that revelation?
Yeah, and the setting to be caught completely off guard, you're thinking, okay, this is just going to be, a normal interview, and it starts getting exposed that your friend and confidant over the past couple of weeks has been most likely working with the government.
Yeah. So backstage, Simon confronts Trevor. Trevor admits the truth. He's been cooperating with damage control, feeding him information because they've been looking at him. They consider him dangerous, meaning Simon. He says there is a way out, but admits he does not have a plan. And so Simon coldly compliments Trevor on his greatest performance and walks away. And he is livid. He's brokenhearted. doesn't trust anything, and he storms through the studio, and his emotions erupt. I love the kind of how they kind of like had the powers kind of come off, and like the perspective, kind of the fisheye look. The ground shakes, equipment crashes. With a scream, Simon unleashes a catastrophic energy blast that rips through the building, and the whole soundstage collapses. And in the distance, as this is happening, who is standing out there and stops and sees exactly what's going on?
Kathy Friedman.
Kathy
Just
Friedman is
she
here.
she's like, what is going on now?
She doesn't see who does it. She just sees the destruction of the of the soundstage. So,
Yeah.
and that's how the episode ends. And that's a heck of an ending. A lot of different things. We get Simon finally sees exactly what's Trevor's been doing. Kathy Friedman switch over. Like, that was a really good penultimate episode. As I said, it was my favorite of the series.
Yeah. It was a very good episode, and it was, again, fun moments with, especially between Trevor and Simon, and that revelation, at the end, and the whole blowing up scene. It's okay, where do we go from here? It's
Yeah.
a great way for them to end off.
Yep. So, final episode, Yucca Valley. So, the episode opens with another glimpse of Simon Williams' childhood. After the movie screening, Sanford takes Simon out for burgers, and Simon excitedly recounts everything he loved about the film while Sanford listens proudly. He tells his son that he cannot wait to see him on the big screen someday, reminding Simon of his performance in 12th Night and assuring him that his talent is real. It's a quiet moment of validation that echoes forward through Simon's present day choices, and it's a good father son moment, you know.
Yeah. So,
But
and again,
go
the
ahead.
showing between his father and him really goes to who Simon is today and why he is who he is.
hmm So back in the present, Trevor emerges onto the wreckage of Wonder Man set just as Simon speeds away, and authorities quickly respond. Damage control races over there, passing some burger joint where Sanford once encouraged his son. Clearly, Agent Cleary surveys destruction, already connecting the dots. He says, "We're gonna get Simon. We're gonna get him. This is his. This is what he's doing." But by morning, explosion dominates the news. Simon watches the coverage, shaken and emotionally. He's just expecting he's going to get arrested. He calls his mother, who immediately senses something's wrong. Simon deflects, asks a few harmless questions, and abruptly tells her he loves her before hanging up, and she's just really concerned. So Trevor calls next. Simon hesitates before answering, and Trevor apologizes again profusely and insists he's found a solution. Moments later, he just tells him to trust him. Moments later, a breaking news alert saying that there's been a man who's taken responsibility at that point, and it's the Mandarin. Trevor claims responsibility for it. He does that whole thing. In 1953, Alan Dulles, did that, and you never. Yes, I destroyed this for this propaganda piece, and you never saw me coming. And then cuts off at that point.
I do wonder. I'm like, who edited this video for him? And
That
then he
quick.
he even had like a glimpse of Josh Gad laughing in the background as if he was taking responsibility for
Exactly. Yeah.
everything.
In that, so Trevor declares that Slatter, and so Cleary, the damage control breaks in and takes Trevor into custody and declares that Slatter was always the performance, that he's always been the Mandarin, which we know that's not true, and he promises will escape. And Cleary just says, "I know what you're doing. I'm going to let you deal with this. And one day I'm going to get Simon." But, he says, "I don't know what you're talking about." But Simon's watching Trevor's arrest unfold. Terrell arrives and drives him to a new filming location because apparently Von Kovac never misses a day of shooting. And Kovac greets Simon warmly, insisting the emotional turmoil and the role, what the role requires. And Simon was born to play this. They'll figure out Barnaby, and with it's just one of those situations where he said we'll figure it out. But yeah, talk to us about like what happens next.
Yeah, so going back a little bit, the moment between Kovac and Simon and him saying that, I want to, you have all this pain, you have all this feelings of frustration and betrayal. I want to see what that inspires out of you as an actor. Like, I want to see where we go from there. And so that's when we get Simon getting the original Wonder Man glasses, and at
Yep.
that point he is just like, all right, I'm all in, I'm ready to do this. He disrobes and we get our first real look at the Wonder Man suit and Simon in all of his glory.
Yep, and it's pretty close to comic accurate, I'd say, the for the modern day look of Simon Williams, and so it's a great triumphant montage, and we see who replaces Barnaby but Joey
Good,
Pantoliano,
good
of
old Joey
course.
Pants.
Good Joey Pants. The completed film premieres to a packed theater. Martha sits beside Simon with Janelle and Eric nearby. The film is a hit. Kovac hints at a sequel. Janelle immediately moves to secure Pantoliano for future projects. Outside, Simon quietly asks about Trevor, and Janelle informs him that Trevor has been placed in an inescapable black box. Simon smiles, falters, but Janelle pushes forward, reminding him that patience has paid off. He needs to choose and embrace this moment. So Simon's choice takes him from Hollywood. He appears next at a rural bar speaking with Chuck Eastman. He explains that he's needs to, follow him around to observe his life closely for a role. He can't really say what it is, can't say anything about it. He just, he'll pay him and everything like that. He just needs to keep it a secret. So he brings him home, introduces his wife, like treats him like a normal person. Like we're just, at this moment, I'm like, what is going on here? So Simon embeds himself with it, shadowing doctor of his workouts, work days, and Chuck eventually secures Simon access to his workplace under a fake name. In he goes to the facility, and the sign reads DODC, the Department of Damage Control. Now we realize what Simon is doing. Simon is trying to get into where Trevor's being held. Man, that was I'd say that was a really cool twist, because I just did not know where we were going with this.
Yeah, it was really weird, and he's sitting there with Chuck, then he's having dinner with his family, and like he's like, you guys can ask whatever you want. The kids start asking questions. He's like, look, I'm gonna admit this is weird. It's even weird for me. And the kid's like, so can we tell people that we're eating dinner with Simon Williams? And he's like, absolutely not.
Nope.
Let's keep this as undercover as possible. He's running with Chuck, and it's the running scene with Chuck is so funny because Chuck's like, if you're really trying to portray a guy like me, shouldn't you not be running because I'm out of shape? So wouldn't your counterpart of me be out of shape as well? Just,
Yeah.
it really does gives the feel that he is researching a role. And then
Yep.
Chuck comes up and says, I pulled some strings. I got you, this pass. You'll be able to come in and you can shadow me for the day. Just keep your head down. We won't draw a lot of attention, but I got a way for you to come in.
And that's the most ridiculous thing is, man, it's it. If someone like this can slip into a government agency at that point that easy, oof, that's doesn't speak a lot for the Department of
Yeah.
Damage Control. So elsewhere, Cleary and Hyderall arrive for a briefing. Cleary reveals that the ionic energy was detected at the explosion site and concludes that Simon Williams is either an extreme threat or an invaluable asset because of what they could use him for. Simon locates Trevor's cell. Trevor immediately asks about the movie and who replaced him. Simon says, let's not talk about that. Rips off the cell door off the hinges. Alarms sound through the facility. Trevor warns him that escape is impossible. Simon just says, I got this handled. Power surges through him. Blast free, launching him into the sky, and they fly off. And Cleary arrives moments too late, staring at the wreckage of yet another impossible escape that he never saw coming.
Yeah, and the escape scene is pretty fun. He's walking in there, and at one point he even passes Cleary as he's walking to the cell. He's trying to keep his head down. Cleary's in a motor cart, so he's not really looking up and looking at him. And he gets in there and he's able to break his friend right on out of prison. And Cleary's just sitting there looking just like, oh crap, I'm in trouble.
So yeah, so it's you know they escape and it's a good, like we keep on saying, it's a good buddy movie. It was a great kind of happier ending because there's no necessary connection that Simon did it. They can make assumptions and have that idea, but he got Trevor to escape. And so I'd say it goes with loyalty over legacy and friendship over fame. Simon chooses Trevor, not Hollywood, cementing himself as both the hero and wild card. Damage control's outmatched once again. The series ends by redefining what power truly costs. So, again, all in all, I enjoyed the series. I will eat my words, and I said I would love to eat my words. I just wasn't excited about the series, but I'm glad that it exceeded my expectation, which were very low. But I'm happy I watched it. I did not feel like it was a waste of time. But I will say, is this something that you have to watch? No, it's not something you have to watch, but it's something that you won't regret once you do. You know,
Yeah.
it's a nice kind of interlude into what many consider just to be the Washburn speed of superhero shows and movies.
Yeah, and I was telling a coworker, like, if you haven't watched Marvel in, a couple of years, maybe superhero fatigue, or it became overwhelming, then this is a good thing to just put on, watch. You get to enjoy the story without having to be too invested. Yes, seeing Iron Man 3 and seeing Shang-Chi gives you a little bit more of Trevor and his story, but overall, you don't need any of that. You can just enjoy this.
Yeah. So, but overall, what would you rank Wonder Man for yourself?
So right now, after I have viewed it all the way through twice, I have it sitting at about a 7 to 7.5. It's not low key, and it is not WandaVision levels, but it is definitely, and I'm happy to say it is nowhere near Secret Invasion. I
Yeah.
definitely have it over a lot of other Marvel TV projects. I have it over Ironheart, and I thoroughly enjoyed parts of Ironheart. So it's definitely a good television viewing, and this is one where even though they did the everything drops in a day, it did not do it a disservice. I think this was enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit lower. I'd say a 6.8 to 7.0. Um, that's for, like I said, me saying it's good and saying it like that, it doesn't make it bad. It's just there are other shows that I like a lot better than this that I think I rank it lower in the sense of rewatchability. Like, will I rewatch this one day? Probably. Will it be more immediate than other shows? No, it won't. But again, one day I will. But it is it was an enjoyable watch. I'm glad it's out there. I look forward to hopefully seeing Yaya as Simon Williams again. I definitely look forward to seeing Trevor again. It sets it up for that point. Where we're going to see them, I don't know. Will they return in Doomsday and/or Secret Wars? Maybe. I don't know. Do I need it? No. Would I have a problem with it? No, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So,
That
but
just means we get more Trevor Slattery cameos.
yep. So, but all right, we're going to take our final ad break for the evening. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They could be a bit loud, so give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. So, let us deal with Mr. Brent's question from last week. So, he gave us a task, and both of us have not listened to Travis Told You for that came out that where Mr. Snell answered his question, and we wanted to be as like we haven't talked about our list, and but I said to David Allfair I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of us have the same choices at that point because again there's only so much what we could do. But as a reminder, Brent asked us to come up with to keep it to 10 projects or less. So we could do less than 10 but no more than 10 projects. What we would consider suggest for rewatching as doomsday prep. Um Didn't keep it. He didn't say MCU only. He just said, "What would we be our 10 projects or less for Avengers Doomsday prep?" So I don't know. I say we just go down our respective list, and I don't mind going first at that point. Or you can go first. You tell me.
Should we read off Brent's first? Brent doesn't have 10, but since it
Let's
was
say
his question.
well, let's save his for last. Let's save his for the
Okay.
last at that point. All right. Here's my list, and I'm kind of going back and forth on a couple of them. I do have some honorable mentions. What I will say, I'll go through it. I might replace one as I go through this. So I'll say first off, Iron Man. We got to start it off with where it all began at that point. Um, then I go with Captain America: Winter Soldier. Reason for that is kind of talking about the idea of the kind of conspiracies, the this kind of untrusting. This is where we start seeing the breaks and the cracks and the luster of where we're at in the MCU. Not to be outdone, Captain America: Civil War, where we get the true breakup of what was going on and start putting these seeds of distrust and disloyalty and what really matters on the team. Um, these next couple. I'm pretty confident you also will also have on our list. Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame. Russos have been very much saying that this Doomsday is a direct sequel to Endgame, so it's kind of hard to watch Endgame without doing Infinity War. But hey, Loki season 1 and 2. We're dealing with a TVA. Loki's going to be in Avengers Doomsday. I think you need to understand where Loki is. Do I think they're going to have to say something in Doomsday to explain where this Loki and who this Loki is to help those that don't watch Loki? But man, Loki is definitely one of the best shows on Disney Plus, so do yourself a favor, watch it. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This deals really, continuing on with Loki and the multiverse, talking about the incursions, dealing with the variants at that point. So there we go with that. Spider-Man: No Way Home really starts seeing the idea of what the incursions could do in the MCU. Really heading it off at that point with merging of the realities, different Spider-Man, the villains, like that. That was a must see. And then I have Deadpool and Wolverine. You know, and you might wonder, it's like, wait a minute, the X-Men are going to be in this. Why don't you have that? And I went back and forth of putting an X-Men movie on here. And if I were going to put one on here, because that's 10, my honorable mentions are X2, X-Men United. I think out of the films, I think that one presents a better face forward of who these people are. And like I said, I went back and forth between Deadpool and Wolverine and X-Men X2 United. Um, ugh. You know what? I'm gonna replace it. I'm gonna replace Deadpool and Wolverine with X2 X-Men United. I think that'll be a little bit better at that point because you don't need Deadpool and Wolverine to kind of understand it, but I go back and forth on it just because of the Void, but you get the idea of the Void in Loki, so you don't need to see it twice. I say honorable mention for Fantastic Four, though I like Fantastic Four. I don't think it's required watching in order to see Doomsday. I don't. I think that they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four, and you're going to be able to understand who they are very quickly. I don't think it's required viewing, but it's an honorable mention. And then my other honorable mention is What If Season 1, just for the idea of what the multiverse is and how different things can change in a moment's notice. So that's my list.
That's a pretty good list. I have one, two, three, four that are on that list, and then I have
Okay.
some others. So I will
Yay.
start
I
off.
love it. I love it. Love it.
I will start off with the four that we have the same. I won't go too
Okay.
in depth in them because you already did. That'd be Avengers Endgame, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Loki, and Deadpool and Wolverine. We have all of those the same.
Okay.
All right, I will then go, and I was kind of basing this off of what we've seen from the chairs and what we have seen from the trailers so far.
Okay.
So I have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever
All right.
because we have the Wakandans plus we have the Telocons in that trailer, so they are going to be, featured heavily. I've got Fantastic Four just because I have a feeling that Franklin is going to be playing a big step in there. So Fantastic Four first steps kind of set you up to know about him and his cosmic powers. I have Captain America: Brave New World because this is a reminder of where we are at with Sam Wilson's Captain America. I have Thor: Love and Thunder as a reminder of where Thor is at coming out of this. From that trailer, it looks like, he is really going to be protective of his daughter. This is a reminder of how he got to that point. I have Thunderbolts asterisk because we're going to be having this new version of the Avengers. Who are they?
The
How did we
Avengers.
with a Z, so we avoid copyright. And I also chose an X-Men, but I went with X-Men Days of Futures Past.
Okay. That was, like I said, that's where I went back and forth, and I'm glad, at the last second I pulled an audible and got Deadpool and Wolverine out and put X2 at that point. And yeah, I'm glad to hear that our lists were not necessarily as similar as I was wondering they were going to be. Like I said, I look forward to hearing Mr. Snell's at that point as well. But that's again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. I mean, I like it how we took different kinds of spots to do. I understand, Wakanda Forever because of with Namor and where Wakanda stands at that point. I just more went with Civil War to kind of introduce the idea of it at that point, just to kind of get it in there. But again, when you limit it to 10, you can't have everything. So Brent's list is Avengers Endgame, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Loki, Spider-Man No Way Home, Fantastic Four First Steps, X-Men Days of Future Past, Deadpool and Wolverine. His honorable mentions are What If and Across the Spider-Verse. Definitely Multiverse, but I'm not convinced they'll pull from the animated projects the same way.
Yeah.
And do you think, it's one of those like, we got to see The Watcher. We got to see Uatu. It'd be a crime not to.
That is the only thought process that I think could be pulled from What If is for Doomsday. I think the only thing that could be pulled from What If is the Watcher. Now, if we were talking Secret Wars, then yes, there's a lot of different things that they can pull from. But for this, I would love to see having a version of the Watcher as all of this is going on.
Yeah, so that's our list at that point. Catch Travis told you for his list at that point, and but yeah, that was a great question, Brent. Really kind of stretched it. This was not an easy list to come up with because we both. I appreciate that we went kind of different directions with this, and I wanted to kind of the and the reason also, like, I wanted to put Iron Man on there to establish Tony Stark, but Captain America too, to kind of see where Cap has gone through this journey as well. And I didn't put the other Iron Man on there because I think the Iron Man in Infinity War and Endgame kind of presents that as well in a way, and it also Civil War shows where Tony is as well. So, but yeah, that was good. We'll have to see. I don't know if I'm gonna do a man, doing a whole rewatch of everything. I don't know if I'm up for that.
Yeah, that
But
that's going to be a daunting task. I
that
will
would
watch
be.
some of these in anticipation and getting up to it, but I don't know if I'm gonna take on the whole thing.
Jim Scroggs in the chat. Have you all read the Spider-Man '94 series yet? Yep, I have. It's good.
Yeah,
It's fun. It's enjoyable. Wish we could actually see it in animation, but it's good. I enjoy it. All right. Well, speaking of that, as we head into it, we're gonna do fact or fiction. Then we got to talk about Comic Book Club because that's coming back next week, and we're gonna reveal what we're doing. So let me pull up the for ones from last week that you put out there. So number one, the Department of Damage Control will be the organization that is chasing down the mutants in the MCU. 77 said fact, 23% in fiction. Number two, Cable will be mentioned in Avengers Doomsday. 35% said fact, 65% fiction. And number 3, when Kevin Feige steps down as head of Marvel Studios, he will go and produce a DC movie studios with James Gunn. 16% said fact, 84% said fiction.
And that's the one that I knew was the biggest stretch.
Yep. All right. So I'm trying to figure out the order for this. All right. First one, Vision Quest will be the official lead-in for Avengers Doomsday. Something with how Vision Quest is going to end will lead directly into Avengers Doomsday.
I will say fact on that. I will say fact on that because I think it will spark the masses to watch Vision Quest. People will say, "Did you see that ending? Did you see that episode that leads into it?" And it's going to make people want to go back and watch it. So yes, I will say fact on that.
An iron suit around the world, you know? All right. Number 2, fact fiction number 2. Hulk will go into a new transformation in Spider-Man Brand New Day. One we haven't seen before. Because if we will see in a new official transformation.
Technically, we have only really seen 2. I wouldn't count the Berserker Hulk version of being under control of Wanda as 3. I will go ahead and say fact with that. We're gonna get this rampaging Hulk that I assume we're going to see is going to be a different version.
I'm a fact as well. I say we're getting Gray Hulk. So
That would
not
be pretty
saying,
awesome.
I'm not that's and people say Mr. Fix It. No, that's different. Gray Hulk has not been seen officially in the MCU, so I say we're getting Gray Hulk at that point. And the last one. Speaking of continuing on with Spider-Man Brand New Day, we will see the symbiote piece that was last seen in Spider-Man No Way Home return in some way in Spider-Man Brand New Day. In some way, we will see that symbiote piece again.
I will also say fact on this. I think that this is a good time to merge those realms, and if Sony has no plans after they have finished up their symbiote trilogy, then it can now be used in another medium. So I'm going to say fact.
Yeah, so it is. I'm a fact as well. I think that even if it's in a post-credit scene, that's where they're gonna put something out there. You know, I do not think they're going to. Oh, what is it? I don't think they're gonna put the I don't see them kind of pivoting halfway through the movie and doing a symbiote version. I think that's still they're gonna do that for a full movie. They're not gonna put it in this one. They got to reestablish Spider-Man for this, for where he is right now in Brand New Day. So,
Yeah.
but all right, but those are fact or fiction. So let your voices be heard on that on Sunday afternoon. And the return of Comic Book Club is here. So we said last week that we are going to kind of go through. We don't know when we're going to end this kind of March, but we're going to look at comic book arcs and series that the movies and shows were based around. And so we've got a good list going right now. So the first one up for the next comic book club that will start next week is Age of Ultron by Brian Michael Bendis and Brian Hitch. So we say this, wait a minute, that movie was based on this thing. Well, they took the title, they took some ideas of it, but I think, and David, when we went through the choices, we want to do this because we haven't read it in a long time, and I think it's very interesting to go back to this series that has nothing to do with what the movie is, outside of little hints here or there. But I think it's kind of interesting to see what if they ever did something like this truthfully. So, little kind of preview for it. For years, the Marvel Universe has lived in fear of the artificial intelligence known as Ultron would one day evolve to fulfill its greatest desire, to wipe out all organic life and take over the Earth. That day has arrived. The impossible has happened and Ultron rules the planet. And as the few superhero survivors that remain try desperately to stay alive, Luke Cage learns the staggering secret of Ultron's victory. As a near broken Captain America leads a ragtag counterattack, Wolverine makes a controversial and desperate decision that creates an all-new Marvel universe. But can even this rash act defeat Ultron? The event of the year has arrived. This is another one of those event series for Marvel where there are a lot of tie-ins and different things like that. We are just going to read the main event, which is 10 issues. So for the next 10 weeks, we'll be delving into Age of Ultron. So hopefully you'll join us for that. So I'm excited. It's been a very long time since I've read it, and I remember I was probably some of the few that kind of that did enjoy it. So we'll see if it holds up after all these years.
Yeah, it's the first comic that I read in digital form.
Okay.
So, and it is still in my Apple library as a result. I remember getting it, and at the time, this is when Marvel was doing a thing where if you bought their books, there
Yep.
was also the code inside that you could get it digitally. So I would keep all my books in their sleeve, and then I would just read the digital. This was the first series that I started digitally.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, you're right. That was right when they were beginning that. They don't do that no more. They don't get you buy the game and get buy the book and give you a digital version. They don't let you do that no more.
Yeah.
So, but all right. Well, we'll start that next week with Age of Ultron issue number 1. So, but all right. Well, we've concluded Wonder Man. We know that there is not going to be a Avengers Doomsday, Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer for the Super Bowl. So, what we thought was going to be that was our preparation for the next week. We don't know, so we'll have to see if any news breaks. But if it doesn't, we may take next week off. But we'll kind of gauge that as the week goes on. But we hope you enjoyed our breakdown of Wonder Man the last 2 weeks. And David, tell people how they can follow you.
You can follow me on all socials at The Phantom. You can follow me here on the GeekVerse with our show, The Gimmick. It's our wrestling show. We've got our Royal Rumble review just went up last weekend. Plus, we've got a new episode coming soon, doing some more WWE 2K25 as we finish out before the upcoming just announced WWE 2K26. And we're going to be figuring out how we're going to be doing that one as well. So we've got some fun stuff coming up for you guys, and we're on our road to WrestleMania. So there's a lot of content coming on the GeekVerse network for The Gimmick.
Yep. So definitely check that out. And you can follow me on all the socials at Chris Balga. We pretty soon, I know at time of recording, when you listen, if you're listening to the audio, we are getting Jake and I are getting ready to record the next episode of our monthly series on the Brave and the Boys channel, looking at the new pre-orders on Panelbound Comics. So check that out when it drops, hopefully within the next week. And you can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Network. You feel free to tweet, email, you send DMs that are open across the board, fact or fictions, ask questions. Continue to rate and review Marvel Alliance on solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, David, post-credits discussion. What do you got?
Okay, post-credit discussion. Disney has named a new CEO. Josh D'Amaro is the new CEO, taking over from our good friend Bob, who is stepping down. They have a whole succession plan. Josh is a former head of theme parks and cruises. So my question to you is, do you think that this will have any changes on Marvel or its properties?
Well, I think part of the story we also need to consider with this is that another major announcement was made in leadership at that point. A new president and chief creative officer. If you go into a little details of that, because I think this is a first for the company.
Yeah, so let me bring up the deadline report. Dana Walden is going to be taking over as the number 2. Like I said, Bob Iger is the outgoing chief executive over there. And they are going to kind of be. They had a moment where it was which one is it going to be? A lot of people thought that Dana Walton was going to be the head as well. So they are going to have a close working relationship as a whole. Um, he Tomorrow will be the new CEO, and let's see what else. I'm trying to remember what Walden's actual
I think
title
she,
is.
I think she's president and chief creative officer. So she's going to deal with the creative side of it, but also she's going to be named president.
Yep, President Chief Creative Officer. Iger will officially step down in March, and so that is they're starting their transition period now.
Yep, yeah, he's going to step down as CEO on March 18th, and he's going to remain with the company through the end of the year as an advisor. And at the end of the year, he officially is no longer going to be an employee of Disney at that point. He's been with, and interesting enough, like Josh DeMauro has worked directly under Bob Iger for his entire career at Disney in one way, shape, or form. So it's going to be interesting because a lot of people say, well, the last guy they got from theme parks, Bob Chapek, didn't necessarily fan out, but I think with um, Dana, what was her last name?
Walden.
Walden. I think with her being named president and chief creative officer, that kind of creates kind of a similarity between Peter Safran and James Gunn, where you have the you have Josh doing the CEO, the business, everything like that, the kind of really big face of the company, while she is really leading the whole idea of creative side. Now that was the thing that Bob Iger really was always a big thing. Like he looked at the creatives as kind of the key when Chapek did not have that. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this new dynamic works. Again, head of the theme parks, he was one of the ones that his kind of big recent one of his last projects was getting the Disney theme park out in the Middle East at that point. And that's going to be built out there too. So it's going to be interesting. Will it change Marvel? Will this have any change for Marvel the property? I think they're just going to continue doing on. I'm not necessarily I'm a little concerned when I hear comments about like how he's thinking about using AI. So that kind of gives me a little bit of pause. But again, wait and see. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting. But I don't. Bob Iger kind of liked the spotlight a little bit more, like being out there. I don't know if Josh is going to continue that idea of being as much in the spotlight as Bob Iger was.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see who takes more of a role with the studios as a whole. I have heard the talks of the use of AI. I'm very much hoping that we do not go that route with the movies and trying to keep things down. I know that that is something that they have started with the games, especially with their investment with Epic Games. People who don't know who Epic Games is think Fortnite. That is their biggest property, and so I'm hoping that you know we still have the movies running the way that they're going without too much initial interruption and they don't make that just dive into AI and things like that. I would like to see if they already have a big market with Marvel when it comes to the parks and things like that. Do they expand that role? Do we get more with Marvel? Do we expand maybe that Marvel park that's in California to Orlando? Like, how does that happen? Are they going to view this as a strong property, or will they start to pull back and feel like, all right, we're in Marvel overload? The mandate is going to come down from on high to pull back.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping that that is not the case. That it comes from on high to pull back. It's more of, well, we're pulling back because that's what's in the best interest of the story and the characters.
Yeah. So, but we'll see what happens. Leadership changes, leaders come and go, but Kevin Feige's still in charge. So, till he's 90. So, but all right. Well, we'll see if we will see if we're back next week. At that point, if not, we'll see you when some news drops. But hope you, like we said, hope you enjoyed our Wonder Man breakdowns, and we'll see you when we see you. And again, get ready for Age of Ultron, our comic book club, and y'all stay safe. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
See ya.